out coloring books that are purchased as PDF files, what kind and paper weight do you suggest for best result? I prefer to use cardstock. The weight kind of just depends on what I'm using. Most of the time, I'm going to just use regular old cardstock that you can find at Walmart because it'll hold up to what I'm trying to do. If you use markers, I definitely suggest cardstock. If you use any other wet mediums, I suggest it as well. Colored pencils and pastels and chalks do very well on the regular coloring book pages, but markers and wet mediums do bleed through. So I suggest using cardstock. And Sherry B asked a really good question. She said that she has heard about using eyeshadows for backgrounds on coloring pages. I'm wondering how to keep the eyeshadow from rubbing off the paper. I actually do use eyeshadow sometimes. I created a whole portrait made in makeup. It's really fun and challenging. Just something I wanted to try. And I recommend when you're done, they have these sprays. You can find them at your local craft store. They're called fixatives. And I'll post a photo of it. What you do is when you're done, you read the directions on the fixative, and some of them say hold a certain way away, some of them say, come closer, those kinds of things. So what I always do is I do a little bit of, if I'm using eyeshadow, I take a blank piece of paper that's kind of the same weight and mark it up with the eyeshadow, and then use the directions it says and give it a try there first, because you don't want to ruin your project that you just completed. So I always test it out, get a feel for it first, and then I use it on my actual artwork or coloring page. And several people have asked if I'm married and have kids, and the answer is yes and yes. I am married, and I do have one kid, a little 7-year-old boy who keeps me very busy. Tracy C asked if I used mixed mediums. I have not in my coloring pages. I just haven't thought about it. I don't know why. I just haven't. But in my actual artwork, I do this a lot. In my actual artwork, I love to mix watercolor, acrylic paints. I also love to mix coloring pencils with them as well. So I do use mixed mediums quite a bit. I just haven't in a coloring page. I need to do that. So Caitlin S asked if I've watched Fuller House yet. Yes. I haven't finished it yet, but I have been binge watched a little bit. Actually, I've really enjoyed it. Sonia H asked if watercolor paper was good for gels and Prismacolor. I'm going to say yes and no. I have used watercolor paper in my art and used gel pens, and I've also used Prismacolor colored pencils on. And I'm not sure if she was asking if it was good for Prismacolor markers. For the markers, it's good. For the gel pens, it's good. I will say for colored pencils, it holds up well if you do a lot of layering and a lot of shading. One thing that I don't like about it is it's a little bit harder to get smooth because it naturally has that tooth to it. And by tooth, I mean bumpiness to the paper, because it's made to hold watercolor, and it's made to hold that water in there and the paint. So it's not a nice smooth finish like we're used to, but you can use it. Lori W asks how she can learn to shade. There are so many different techniques with it, and it depends on if you're using color pencils or markers or what medium that you're using. On my YouTube channel, I do have several tutorials on how to shade and how to blend, so check those out. Check out other artists and practice and try out new techniques, and there will be some you like, some you don't like, but you don't know until you try. So definitely, try some, reach out, watch some new stuff, and give it a try. One of my favorite ways to blend is using a white colored pencil. And with shading, one thing I always try to tell people is build up slow when you're using colored pencil. Start light, build another layer, build another layer, build another layer. And also with shadows, I hardly ever use actual black because black is so harsh. Very rarely in nature is a shadow actually pitch black. There's usually purples and greens and blues and all kinds of stuff. So mix a lot of different colors and try to get that color that you really that is representative, and you'll be surprised at your results.